Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Two Rivers Tuesday. This is our podcast where we continue the conversation from Sunday's sermon and discuss fun things coming up in the life of our church family, like quiet waters.
Quwaters.
I think my dad uses that same word for pants that are too short.
Quwaters?
Yes. I don't know
like
why.
High waters.
Yeah, I feel like he uses that word though.
Quwaters?
Yes.
Instead of high waters.
Yes.
Okay. Q-dub, quiet waters.
Yes. So tell us why somebody should go to this.
Oh, we're gonna change roles one day, and I'm gonna be the one who just asks huge, impossible questions.
I welcome that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Why should someone go to quiet waters? Well, I think that life is busy and life is fast, and quiet waters is a chance to slow down and enjoy some quiet time with the Lord, and to do that in community with one another. There's a real power in that. Mm-hmm. And I just think there's real power in getting away for a little while. And we're not spending the night anywhere, even though we're calling this a retreat. And maybe we have a retreat in our mind. We think we go away, we spend the night there, we sleep in bunk beds or cabins or whatever, Well, we're not spending the night there, but we are getting away for hours at a time. Mm-hmm. And we're going to worship and we're going to listen. And I think the Lord's going to speak to us and lead us. And I think he'll reveal things to us in his word by the power of his Spirit that are for us right now. And I think it'll be really good.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. A couple of practical questions that came my way that thought might be helpful for people to hear the answer to. Mm-hmm. We are inviting everyone who's participating in Quiet Waters into a corporate fast together. Yeah. And someone came up to me and was like, I'm pregnant. I don't feel like it would be wise for me to fast. And I was able to be like, please don't fast.
Do not.
So I think that that's just a practical thing of if there is some reason that it is not wise for you to fast from food, you are totally welcome to still come, participate, bring your food. There's a kitchen there, microwave there, surely. You can eat.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, you got to do what you need to do. Mm-hmm. And for some people, and you may not, it might be, maybe you're not pregnant, but there's some other medical reason why that just wouldn't be wise for you to do that, blood sugar wise, whatever it is. Please take care of yourself. Yeah. That's important. And it may just be thinking through, well, what will my fast look like? Mm-hmm. I need to continue eating, but maybe it's I'm going to fast from coffee. I don't know if you're pregnant, you may not be drinking coffee anymore. I don't know.
There might be some entry level that you can
participate
in.
What would a fast look like? We're doing the fast part of this is just another way to engage kind of our whole selves in this. Basically, it's a posture of saying, Lord, I want you more than I even want the food. That I want you to be what nourishes and strengthens me. And so the way that will look is Friday night, have dinner, and then you'll kind of begin your fast after dinner on Friday night, and our session will start at 7, which is kind of after dinner, and then you'll eat again after 4:30 when we're done on Saturday. Yeah. And we'll have coffee and tea and water and juices and mints. You can't go to a Two Rivers thing without mints. Because I've heard somewhere that when you're fasting, your breath actually gets worse. Which I don't really know the science behind that, but there'll be plenty of mints and Jolly Ranchers and things to suck on.
That's great. Great. Okay, so what was the other practical? Okay, so parents who are planning on coming and are arranging childcare and stuff like that, if they want to both come at a particular time, is there a particular session that's you should both be at this one? I've been telling people Friday night.
Okay.
Okay, so no. I just felt the first session, the start of it might be where a lot of the foundation is laid. So if you could both be there, that'd be awesome. And then if you have to trade off on Saturday, that's totally great too.
You are right, as usual, Maggie. I would agree with you.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because for some people oh, but Friday doesn't work for us. I don't care.
Yeah,
just
still
whatever.
come, yes.
I've had several people ask me about that because of different things, maybe they're in the medical field and, Saturday is their shift, and like that's not something you just get out of, without like 6 months notice or something. Yeah, okay. Like then come to what you can, you know? And if both of you, if you're going to have to do some kind of trade-off thing for a session or two, then I think coming together on Friday night at the beginning is probably good. Because I don't know, this is one of those things where like there will be some things established probably along the way, and it's not going to be like you're coming into a show that's already going and you don't know what's going on. I mean, the Lord's going to meet with you there no matter what.
Yeah.
So just come whenever you can.
That's great. All right. And if you want to register, please do that at our website under the events tab. You can register. So go ahead and get that in and be making all your arrangements, because we hope that you're there.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about Sunday.
Okay.
How good was it to be together?
Oh my
finally.
Gosh. Maggie, I was like emotional on the front row.
Same. I was like, I just want to get in a puddle on the floor and just sob at how sweet this is.
Yeah. And I sort of, I mean, like you could intuit it, like after not being there for 2 weeks, I wondered if we would all kind of come ready and excited to be there, and get to sort of feel the fact that this really is a gift, and it was, and it was really good.
Yes,
good
and you went a little off script. So we are in Ecclesiastes, but we were not on Sunday. So, and tell us a little bit about the process of how you decided that's what needed to be preached on Sunday.
Yeah, this is just something that the Lord has been using to call me out of Egypt and more and more into freedom, I think that we all can identify and relate to the fact that we can be Christians. We can be followers of Jesus and possess the Holy Spirit in our lives, and yet still find ourselves, in some type of bondage. I mean, that's such an ugly word, but like find ourselves like continuing to fall prey to a certain temptation, continuing to feel trapped in this particular sin or this pattern of thinking or living in life. It's a progressive thing as we're being transformed more and more into the image of Jesus. So all that to say, that's where God's had me, and trying to identify like what are some of these pharaohs or these taskmasters in my own life that are kind of like keeping me tethered to an old way of life and an old way of thinking when I want to continually be growing in freedom. Yeah. So the Lord, sorry to answer your question, the Lord I felt like the Lord said, this is for everybody and not just for you. In this particular case, John, I think there's something for our church in this. And I do actually think it kind of lines up with Ecclesiastes, because we're watching Solomon in Ecclesiastes, like try to find life in all these places that can't give life. And it's almost like those are like Pharaohs, or those are like Egypt's of slavery, and God's trying to invite us into a different way of life. And then I just think that it ties in with Quiet Waters coming up, and just the call to get away and to worship and serve the Lord, and what he's going to do there is going to be, I think, important for all of us and for our church. Yeah. I thought it was great. I think when you are obedient to do what you feel like the Lord is leading you to do on a Sunday, he like really speaks through that, which is like, it's every Sunday, but sometimes there's uniquely significant Sundays where God is telling you to tell us something, and he uses your obedience to like invite us into something really significant too. So I'm thankful for that. Okay, as you were talking, I thought of a question. It's another big question for you. What do you think are some of the factors that lead us to settle for staying trapped? Like I was just thinking like, gosh, why do we do that? Like, why do we just get used to and accept a half version of freedom in our lives? Why do we accept that? Oh, that's a good question. Because I think to be able to answer that for each of ourselves um, would 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 be, I think, a real key to kind of unlocking some freedom there. I think that there are things that we think we enjoy about those things that kind of we're sort of blind to the enslavement.
Yeah.
And there's things we actually really enjoy about them, and that's what's tricky about it. And just it makes my mind think about Ecclesiastes when, it's like Solomon's talking about pleasure, and he's talking about laughter, and he's talking about building and cultivating and working and relationships, and none of those things are bad. They're all good. And yet, if we're trying to get something out of them that they are not supposed to provide, we'll find ourselves frustrated, but also maybe in some ways addicted. I don't know.
Yeah.
So what would help me out here?
Yeah, I was thinking through this morning, and I was just realizing I have a low view of freedom in some ways. Like I don't realize how good it would really be to be fully free from that thing. And I think we have maybe stunted imaginations.
Yes.
This is something that has been really helpful for me as I've been thinking about sin patterns in my life, or even walking with dear friends and helping them through sin patterns in their life, is just inviting them or inviting myself to imagine really specifically what would it look like to be free from that thing. And I think when we start to get really specific about what true freedom would look like, it helps us it helps build our hope, and it helps us realize oh, that would actually be really good. I would enjoy that. That would be better. And so I think that's a really hope building exercise to just think okay, what is this sin that frustrates me, that I feel tethered to, that I feel like I'm a slave to, and begin to picture and imagine and play out scenarios. How would this scenario look different if you were actually free, if you were truly fully free? And when I begin to imagine that, it's oh, I want that. And it begins to build my faith, which is another part of it. Is I think our faith is too small sometimes, of just we forget that God can bring that level of freedom. We think that this is just how it's going to be, and so we accept that, and we just live in that low level slavery. But when we believe oh, God actually, this is the kind of thing he does, he can bring full freedom to this, and I believe that, then I think it just opens the door, that faith opens the door to him working in such powerful ways. So those are a few things that come to mind of why we get stuck or why we settle for that.
Do you think that there's something in us too that thinks that we dug this hole and we got to get ourselves out of it?
Yes.
And so we accidentally leave God out of the rescuing part of it and the solution part of it. And we're just all right, I gotta figure this out. If I'm going to read another book about habits, and then I'm going to crush it, and that's going to release me. I'm going to do this on my own strength and my own power. And I think, and maybe to add to that, we might think that God is kind of waiting on us to crawl out of the hole that we dug for ourselves. And then he'll be okay, you ready to walk in blessing now, or whatever. And we'll almost kind of think that maybe God's frustrated with us, that we have kind of settled for this slavery, and that there's some kind of disappointment on his face, and just that causes all kinds of problems.
Yes. Yeah. But this is a thing to nuance out, because it does require effort on our parts, and spiritual disciplines do open the door to the power of God's grace to change us, and we're not working on this on our own and in our own strength. And sometimes God zaps us, and just in a moment will bring complete freedom and restoration and healing to a sin pattern, and it's just miraculous. But then sometimes he doesn't. So help us process our role in it versus our wanting God to fix it, and that whole blend of things.
Yeah. Well, I just think, I know I'm doing a lot of different kind of like habits right now at the beginning of the year. And I can, like even fasting, like I can turn fasting into just not eating.
Yes.
Or I can throughout the day as I'm fasting and like ask the Lord to strengthen me and guide me, and just checking in with the Lord. Lord, would you help me over this next hour to just be so thankful for all the good things I get to enjoy when I'd like to be able to eat them right now and enjoy them. Or would you give me what I need to walk into this next hour and this next meeting and this next conversation or this next interaction with my family? Like, I think what I'm thinking about in this conversation is just like continually inviting the Lord into this process of climbing out of this hole.
Yes.
You're not doing it on your own, but we might, I think I am tempted to try, like I'll just do all these things. I'll just fast and I'll do the spiritual disciplines and all those things that are really good, but I can do them in a really broken way.
Yes.
So maybe that's what I meant by that.
Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah, I think the phrase grace-driven effort comes to mind of like, when we see like, okay, I am wearing an ankle brace, like I am in partial slavery still, and instead of negotiating, I want full freedom. So when many of us probably find ourselves in that spot right now where after that sermon we're realizing, okay, I want full freedom. Well, what do I do to get that? And so I think the answer is grace-driven effort, like knowing that there's a part that I play, but it's not totally dependent on my strength or the measure of my faith. But I'm going to put effort in, knowing that grace will meet those efforts. And that's where like the power of God to heal and transform and free begins to flow into those efforts. And so it's both of you partnering together toward freedom.
I love that. Grace-driven effort.
Yes.
That's good.
All right. So let's talk about some modern day pharaohs. Using this principle of there are things that try to partially enslave us, keep us hooked, and they're always negotiating for our enslavement. What are some of the things you see maybe in our culture or even in our church family that you view as some modern day pharaohs for us?
YouTube.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like YouTube is is for some of us like something that draws us in and captures our attention, and sometimes it seems like it's in a benign way until like an hour later and you've watched 47 shorts, just one after the other, and you were not present to the people around you, and meanwhile you've been your world has been flooded with all kinds of things you ought to be pursuing or buying or doing, and they may not be the things that the Lord is inviting you into in this season. So I feel like that's kind of like one of those things that so for me, oftentimes, when there are just no restrictions on where I go on the internet, like within like moral bounds, I guess I should say, like not screen time limits, or I'm not doing any kinds of things. Like I'm just everywhere. Like I'm just flooded with there's 1,000 for me. Like there's 1,000 things I could apply myself to in any given day. Yeah. But what is God calling me to? Well, if I'm just flooded with what they're doing and what they're doing and what that family's doing and where they're going on vacation and what that church is doing and what that pastor's preaching on, it's overwhelming. Yes. And that's how it gets us. It kind of sucks us in. Yeah. Yeah.
And what does it sound like for that Pharaoh to be like, okay, you can go, but stay close?
Yeah. Well, I think maybe it's just, okay, you can go ahead and, get off the app right now, but just keep it open, it'll be right here waiting on you when you get back, you know?
Yeah.
Just stay logged in,
Yeah.
you know, keep it running in the background, and it'll be there.
Yes. Yeah. Or I mean, how many times, I know I've done this so many times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to be off of whatever that thing is for a few months. And then I reward myself at the end of that few months with getting back on. And then it just like takes right back over. And so I think if we zoom out and even think big picture about like the last 10 years of our lives, like how many times have you maybe gone away for a few months off of Instagram and then got back on, and that Pharaoh still owns you. And so I think it's just like asking couple of questions like why do I need to reward myself with getting that thing back? Like the Egyptians didn't reward themselves. I mean, the Israelites didn't reward themselves with going back into slavery. Like in that context, it makes absolutely no sense why we go back to our slave masters. And then asking like, okay, well, what is it in my heart that wants to keep going back? And instead of just like cutting off the behavior, the like fruit of that sin, getting underneath that and being like, okay, what am I after when I keep getting on YouTube? Am I trying to distract myself? Am I uncomfortable with stillness? Do I not know how to engage with my family? Do I not know how to be in my home? Or like whatever it is, asking the hard questions of like, what's in my heart that is like believing this Pharaoh is good for me.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's getting to something. I think that some of the Pharaohs in our lives today, I think of this kind of abstractly, but they are like lies the enemy tells us that we believe. And those lies usually end up somehow getting us to believe something bad about someone else, or believe that a certain situation is hopeless. And then we're just sort of like stuck in this hopeless situation, stuck in this pit, but we believe there's no way out, and we have no imagination for what freedom looks like. And so that's how, like, I mean, the enemy, right, the father of lies, the accuser, Satan himself, like, that's a Pharaoh, right? That's a Pharaoh in our lives, for all of us, and wants us to get stuck believing these lies. And we stay there.
I think a lot of those play out most clearly maybe in marriage and in like deep friendship. So what are some of those lies Pharaoh is telling us, or the enemy is convincing us of, that are affecting our relationships?
How about this person doesn't really care about you?
Yeah, I think in marriage it often plays out with accepting like a level of just brokenness and pain in marriage that doesn't have to be accepted. I think some people, because of real pain and real hurt and real things that have happened in their marriage, just accept that as a reality and have lost the hope that like even in their marriage there can be full freedom. And so I think the enemy whispers like, your marriage will always be this way, your husband will always be this way, your wife will always be this way, and we can get trapped in not living in full freedom or fully forgiving that spouse. And I think that's partially that's another just really common trap of the enemy in relationships, is like, you should feel really justified in holding on to this against that person, and your bitterness and resentment and contempt is totally right because you were wronged. And that, I think that is so what the enemy sounds like in how he wants to trap us in our relationships.
Can I change it from relationships? I'll think about like work, which is something we're going to talk about in Ecclesiastes soon. But I think that your boss or your company can be a Pharaoh that has got you, enslaved, building store cities for it. And how it does it is if you need that, if your work, your boss is your provider and your source of worth and value and like purpose in the world, then like you are therefore subservient to it or him or her or whatever that is. And that's how we stay enslaved, like just trying to get our work to give us something it wasn't designed to give us.
Yeah, I think that's really good. What do you think are some slave masters that come in play in our parenting?
Slave masters and parent, do you have one lined up?
Yeah, I think one that I see in my parenting a lot is anger. Like if I am being driven by the Pharaoh of anger, it will often sound like, okay, go be really patient and be really gentle all day. And then, but there will just like reach a limit. And I'm just like, the lie is, oh, I've done really good today, but this justifies my anger. And so then that it drives me into anger, and that's my sin. And like, that is like the enemy and my sin all like working in tandem to not love my children how I want to love them. But I think that anger can be a huge Pharaoh in our lives of just like, yeah, you can go, you've done really good, you've been gentle, you've been patient, you've been calm, but then it just like in an instant can grab you back into slavery. And I'm trying to believe, and this is part of like the work I'm doing, is just like, okay, I don't have to settle for that being my life. Like I can be fully free from that. And I can really believe and imagine parenting for the rest of my life without anger. That's a real possibility. And I believe God can do that in me. And I want to like participate in him doing that work in me. But I just think it's been so hope filling to imagine that. But that's how it plays out in my parenting.
Yeah. I was thinking about just like comparison, you know, and just like comparing, or just, I don't know, this idea of what parenting is supposed to look like, or what your kids are supposed to look like. And then you're sort of a slave to that image of whatever that is, you know, and then you kind of miss just what's happening right there in the moment and what you need to like step into, even if it's real messy. Even like, so maybe like the perfect picture is the slave master, you know, and it's like always kind of cracking the whip and driving, and instead of you just being able to be like kind of like, oh no, and just like be right there in the mess with your kids, you know, instead of being angry or frustrated with them or impatient, because you know the perfect picture there is like, you know, arms crossed, frowning at you, like, look, you know, you're falling short again.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I just think as we're talking, I'm reminded of Jesus's words saying like, you can't serve two masters. And so in like he in that context, he's talking about money, correct? But I think it applies here of just like, think about all the other masters that you are serving or you're enslaved to, and just imagine Jesus inviting you to like, no, fully, like, I'm a good master. Be a slave to Christ, be a slave to righteousness. And I was also thinking about Romans 6. I just encourage everybody to go read that whole chapter after this, because it just is such a beautiful picture of like what we have been set free from, and now we are free to be slaves to righteousness. And so I just am imagining for our church family, like, what would it look like if we were slaves to righteousness? If like we couldn't help but pursue holiness. We were just so following our master Jesus that like we're running so hard in the direction of righteousness and fleeing anything that would like whisper us lies or try to entrap us. We're running so hard away from the Pharaohs of this world because we're slaves to righteousness.
And because righteousness will reward us and provide for us and give us all that we really long for, right? Because I think that's the drawback to the slave masters. Like, but they let us live there, you know, like, as twisted as that kind of sounds. Like they provide for us, like they pay us wait or whatever it is.
It's comfortable, you know, like,
there. And that was the struggle for the Israelites.
So I think in closing, I just encourage everybody to take a minute and like remember how much God sees you and cares for you even in your enslavement. Like when God saw the Israelites enslaved in Egypt, he saw them and he cared about their their pain. And so I just think it's important to like see his kindness and his gentleness and his grace. Like he sees you right where you're at, and he loved you so much that he paid a really high price for your freedom. So just meditate on that sweet truth.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week.
See ya.